What's the TV saying, Martin? It is the Anfield Wrap. Neil Atkinson, Gareth Roberts, Tim Smith, and I've forgotten his name. It's Ian Ryan. I've decided that what's the TV saying, Martin, may well be the new What's the Frequency, Kenneth, and we can say it at will whenever we feel the need to. This is the Anfield Wrap in association with RedsBet, the way in which you can gamble responsibly and enjoyably if you choose to do so, knowing that 50% of any profits made by RedsBet will go back into Liverpool FC fan-related causes. You can choose to do that if you so wish. It's redsbet.com is the website. But let's crack on with the talk about Liverpool 2, Tottenham 2. We will do the referee and the refereeing, but we'll do it last. So we're not going to dodge it. If you're sitting here waiting for it, it's going to come towards the end of the show. We'll be really, really clear about that. We're not going to do it, but we are going to come to it towards the very, very end, because what there was on show was a very good game of football between two good sides, Gareth. And I think there's lots and lots and lots that you can take from the game, but one of the things that you can take is that Liverpool probably should score more than 2 goals first half.
Yeah, definitely.
Spurs probably on the balance deserves, let's say, 2 goals second half. That 2-2 may well end up being a fair result, however much it hurts, however much it stings right now.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? Like, being a footy fan isn't about fairness, is it? And, it might be fair in terms of, balance of power, and, Spurs fans will probably point out that, we only had 30% of the ball in the second half. But it still felt harsh. I mean, Salah scores an absolute worldie, 93rd minute or thereabouts, and you think that that's enough. You think, it goes off. People are falling all over the show. It's a brilliant celebration inside the ground, and you don't think there's any time left for them to get back into it. Obviously, there is. They get the controversial penalty. Harry Kane scores at this time, and they get away with the draw. And it's really frustrating because when you do sort of step back and try not to let the emotion rule your head, you're quite right to say that it was a great game of football, 2 good sides, a fascinating watch, and a brilliant atmosphere as well. I mean, lots and lots of chat all the time about atmospheres at Anfield and that sort of thing, but I thought it was a really good one. Nice and gnarly, getting stuck into various players, not least Dele Alli, rightly so, and the ref as well, and the officials, which, as you say, we'll come on to, but it is frustrating because, it starts exactly how you want it to start. I mean, how many times do we say when we preview a match, you want Liverpool to be out the traps, you want them to start well, you want them to get an early goal, and we do all that. And, we capitalise on a mistake in their defence. Salah's in, he puts it in, 2 minutes, 20-odd seconds, we're up and we're away. And you're right to say that, we should score a couple more. I mean, Trent puts in a couple of fantastic balls.
Yeah.
Firmino's header, he doesn't make the right connection. Milner flashes that one across the face, which is so close as well. And yet we, first half as well, even when I think they had a lot of the ball first half as well, but I wasn't worried at all because I thought it was dead intelligent how they played Liverpool. Like, the pressing was spot on, and the sort of when they all went,
picking the moments, weren't they?
Yeah, they were, and they really sort of held a shape, and Spurs just couldn't really hurt us, couldn't really pin one on us. They were, they had the ball, but it was in a way that wasn't hurting us, which was fine. But then, you look at it now, obviously with the benefit of hindsight, and just think, did they end up running themselves into the ground, basically? Because, second half, it wasn't quite the same. Spurs obviously come out with, they must have had a decent team talk off the manager, and they came out flying at us and were a bit more confident, got behind us a few more times, a bit sharper, crisper with the passing. But also I didn't think our press was quite as good, and you're seeing players start to tire. Henderson was a blow for me, him going off. I'm not particularly sure any of the subs really in hindsight work, and Tree in the back, bringing Matip on and changing the shape a little bit, don't think particularly worked for us either.
Starting with the start there, Tim, there is this, for me it's one of the odder ones, the game, and then I completely agree with Gareth. For me it was a real insight into what must happen in terms of tactical preparation on a game, because Liverpool score early, and straight away as soon as it happens, you could see Henderson, Milner and Chan, as they were going back from the kick-off, were telling everyone, right, this is what we're doing now, and as if we've all worked on this, boys, we now know what we do next, we're now 1-0 up and this is what we're doing. And to see them execute it first half, and we'll come on to talk about the second, but to see them execute it like that first half, stopping Tottenham's attacks at source, fouling when they needed to, although some of them weren't free kicks as far as I was concerned, but being muscular. And then, as Gareth says, the intelligence of picking them, not constantly closing down and pressing, but picking the moments. For me, it was a real, you can see why these lads are at the very, very, and the manager and the coach and staff, why they're at the very, very best at what they do.
Yeah, you could see straight away, I think, that once we did score, we were very, very happy to, what was evident to me was to let their fullbacks have the ball. Even though I think their fullbacks are quite dangerous, but they put good balls into the box, Trippier in particular. But we could see that we were trying to make it so compact in the middle. Like you said, Chan, Milner, Henderson got together and said, listen, this is what we're going to do. And they were constantly trying to play through us, and they weren't really having much joy, really. And they were just, when the ball went out, they had nothing through the middle, so therefore they were sort of distributing it wide to both Trippier on the right and who's the left back these days? Dave and Ben Davies on the left, and they do put good balls in, but that was just the way sort of we let them do it, because I think that with a bit more, I guess we must feel a bit more confidence, because they've only got really Harry Kane up top, who's going to maybe hurt you off a cross. So I think we were quite happy for that to be the ebb and flow of the game, and that was sort of the way it was. Like Gareth said before, they had a lot of the ball. We were happy to let them have that. I think it was the same against Man City when we played only, whenever it was 2 weeks ago now. The possession figures in those games as well were very similar, sort of 65-35 or maybe even 70-30. But I don't think we're happy to let other teams have the ball. And the way the game sort of spanned, as the game went further and further on, we were sort of quite content, I think, because I think we feel a bit more sort of secure in ourselves that we'll deal with any cross into the box. So, yeah, I mean, I thought he managed the game quite well. Like Gareth said, Henderson going off was a bit of a bloke. So I thought he had a pretty good hour, or I think they went off in 62 minutes. So I thought they controlled the game really well. It was just a shame that obviously it ends the way it does, really. But I was pleased with that midfield, because normally when I see that midfield before the game starts, I'm thinking this isn't really what I want. I want sort of a little bit. I don't mind two of those three playing in any combination. Any combination, but it's always nice to have the one who can just sort of unlock a defence in there as well. So normally I don't really like that as a group, but it played well, I thought.
What I liked about the first half, both at the time and in hindsight, though I did have a little wobble because you always do, Ian, was the feeling that Liverpool were backing themselves to defend. And that's something which we haven't seen a lot of under this manager, and we haven't seen a lot of, I would say, for a couple of seasons even prior to that. That Liverpool, with the exception maybe of when Rodgers goes 3 at the back, and we keep a lot of clean sheets in that run. But Liverpool, I thought, across the pitch really, Robertson, Van Dijk, Lovren, Karius, the 3 centre midfielders. Trent's a little interested in this. He's a young lad who, as we know, is a more attacking full-back and does his better work in that half. But I thought you saw all of those footballers be quite happy with the idea of, we're defending until we're pressing, or we're defending until we're springing, but we're quite comfortable being in defensive mode. By all means, you put the ball in the box up against Harry Kane, because we're gonna win it. And I thought that was a real change, a real shift.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I echo what the boys said before. I think you're absolutely spot on. I think in terms of what was the plus points there, in terms of those kind of, well, that opening 45 really was just how much we closed the space down. I mean, we allowed Spurs very, very little in terms of, opportunities to kind of spring onto our back four. I thought the midfield three, whilst it wouldn't have been my kind of go-to selection, I think you look at it early doors, and there's always games that suit footballers. And I wasn't sure whether this one suited James Milner just after Huddersfield, but he proves me wrong, certainly for that first hour or so. And what the lads did, they trusted each other, Neil. So when someone gets pulled out of a position, and I've watched the game back since being there yesterday, someone would fill in, and it happened a couple of times with Henderson, where he'd have to go to the ball, but Milner or Chan would fill in for him. And I think you're right, as a collective, as a back four unit, take your point about Trent. I thought he had a good first half. I think he struggles a little bit second half. But in the main, Van Dijk, Lovren, they're talking to each other. There's loads of communication. There's communication with the keeper as well. They look solid as a unit. Thought Robertson played well. And as I say, it was a game where you could tell the lads were kind of backing each other and trusting each other, and that's important. And I think the crowd kind of bought into that as well, because even though we were sacrificing a lot of the ball, no one was getting on anyone's back. I think everyone was okay with the plan. And
it was intense, wasn't it?
The whole
thing was intense. The event was intense.
Robbo, it was an unbelievable football match. I mean, you're talking about, there's a saved penalty, there's a penalty that's scored, there's 2 unbelievable goals that have been a little bit glossed over just because of what happens at the end. I mean, the Wanyama one's ridiculous, and I mean, we can talk about how it comes about later, but he'll never hit one as good as that again. And obviously, the Mo Salah one, again, we'll come on to it later, but again, an unbelievable goal, which, whilst people are still talking about it, it's been maybe forgotten a little bit just because of the referee.
Well, my sadness on that is that's a goal that firstly deserves to win a football match, but secondly, the let-off and the intensity of the celebration, to have that stolen from you. I mean, we will do the refereeing at the end, but that, if anything, more than the 2 points, more than the what will this mean in the race for fourth, which I'm banging into the race for the top four, by the way, but more than any of that, the biggest shame to me is just to have lost that, bouncing out of Anfield off that as the winner when you've all gone. There was limbs everywhere, and I'm the lowest. It was mad. I'm in the lower centenary, and it went berserk. Lads tumbling up and down across roads and all sorts. To have lost that was the real shame. Let's get back onto the first half and penning them in, Gareth. And you saw it from the goal kicks. As the half sort of wore on, you saw that Spurs, they were looking at each other, and I think it's dead interesting because we've seen our team do this against good teams. The point where a really good side's going, I don't know what we do here. And that was, I feel you saw that their first half with them. They couldn't get out, they couldn't get playing. They had a little bit of possession, but then from about 20 to 30, we just had them absolutely penned in, and they were terrified. I thought no one wanted to play; they didn't want to know. And these are really good players. These are these lads are terrific footballers, and you can see the intelligence and the intensity of what Liverpool do when a side just cannot get out their own half like that.
Yeah, I thought it was dead interesting from that perspective because we talked already here about tactics and setup and how like sides get drilled and all that. But I always wonder about how much of it goes out the window a little bit when it is as intense as it was in there. And everyone on the pitch and everyone in the stands, whoever you were supporting, whoever you're playing for, they all knew the importance of this game, and it had been built up, and it was the huge match of the weekend. It's on the telly. It's the big top four game. It's all the stuff we talked about last week as well about Spurs. Are desperate to market themselves, if you like, as a de facto big club. And the manager is desperate to put right an awful away record against the big six. I hate that phrase, but that's what everyone's calling it. So, there was lots of sort of subplots to it, and it looked to me that, Liverpool initially coped the better with just the pressure that comes with that. Spurs were all over the show at the back at the start.
Sanchez was
really awful,
wasn't he?
Yeah, he was passive as well, weren't he? I thought, Sanchez, I think Liverpool played on Sanchez, but even the start, the first 2 minutes, he's so passive with that chance that leads to the goal. He has a couple of swipes at it, and then Dyer does the back pass, but it's like they start Spurs really slowly, second or third gear. They're just not at the race at all. Almost surprised by how intense it was for the first 5 or 10 minutes, which was odd, I thought.
Yeah, we kept sort of, I thought, did a really good job on the players that, are going to do something for them. So Ali, Eriksen, what have you. And it ended up like the only one to me that looked a bit like, you're saying they're all sort of looking at each other a little bit and going, well, what do we do here? Like I love Dembele. I just think he's an absolute beast of a player. I'd love him for us. He doesn't give up. He keeps going. I like his spirit. I love that mad wrestle that him and Emre Can had. I think they should just sell tickets and do that separately, them two, because that was just a fantastic moment. And like the needle between them two was good pretty much all game. So yeah, it was that enjoyable contest, and it is such a shame the way it ended, and it is hard to take and all the rest of it. But ultimately, like, I guess at some point we've got to turn around and say, well, they're a really good side. You don't beat Madrid and Dortmund and finish second and third in the league if you're anything but a good side. And so, maybe a point's not that bad.
It's one of the things that was frustrating me about us, insofar as I was frustrated by anything first half, Tim, was just in those key moments, the passing wasn't quite as crisp as you'd like. And that spreads into the second half. The second half's a different kettle of fish, but it spreads into the second half as well. There's a couple of times, I'd say 3 or 4, where Liverpool could really get in. Not just get in as they do get in, and they do get in, but really, really get in. And it's either the pass before the pass or the pass. That's just not quite what we want it to be.
Yeah. I mean, there was a few instances of that throughout the first half, like you say, where one pass or another pass. And it's quite unusual, really, because normally, I think Firmino was sort of guilty of maybe once or twice.
I don't think he has that good a game for me.
No,
he obviously works as ever, but I don't think he has that good a game.
Yeah, because there was one particular one, and it's a difficult thing to do, but the ball dropped right out the air, and normally he's on it like a flash, isn't he? And he just got away from that this one time, and he would have probably scored because he was on the 6-yard line. And he's in a little bit of space actually. But yeah, it was a shame really because we did work into some nice positions. Because when we did get the ball, I thought we looked pretty dangerous every time we got the ball in that first half. We knew sort of how to get at them. I think we put some players in and around Dyer. We got at them a few times, and there was a few chances like that. But the one was literally right at the very, very end of the first half when worked it really well, and then Salah basically decides to try and kick it over the cop nearly. The pass was that heavy, and I think Mane was fuming, wasn't he? But yeah, it's a shame because normally we're so careful in those areas. Normally we've got maybe Firmino playing that ball, and it's always the perfect weight. But I think this time Salah just let it get away from a couple of times for whatever reason, and it's a shame because that would have probably put it to bed. Really, I think at the end of that first half.
I think the first half, credit to the 3 lads playing centre mid, Ian, because I thought they all, as well as working as hard as they were and being as physical as they were, I thought they were all working the ball either by carrying it or by passing really well into the final third. I thought that they were delivering to that front three. That front three was able to get the ball in a fair bit of space, time and time again, either because the press was working, because Chan or Milner especially were carrying it, or because Henderson or Chan were delivering a certain type of pass to them, and the fullbacks as well. It seemed to me like we were getting good opportunities with the ball at our feet in their final third, better opportunities than I would have anticipated, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I tend to agree, and I think your point before was right. We picked our moments really, really well, and I think Spurs were a little bit surprised about that, but I think you're right. I mean, Milner breaks where I think Robbo referenced it before. He gets that. Trent plays a lovely little kind of delicious chip into his path, and he kind of, I think he's looking to play it across the box, but it takes a little nick off Sanchez and just misses the far post. I actually thought Robertson played well, but there was a couple of times where I thought he got into really, really good areas, and his final ball just let him down a little bit. He puts one into the cop when it's the hardest thing to do was to put it into the cop. You know what I mean? He had loads of time and space. And I thought Trent's first half, listen, he had a really poor game against West Brom. I think it was, it's been said a few times, and he's a young player, and he's going to learn, he's going to get better. And I thought he equipped himself well in the main yesterday. I think he struggled a little bit second half. But first half, he puts in some really good balls. I mean, that one for Firmino, he just doesn't quite get the connection on it. It's a good cross, loads and loads of pace on it, maybe a little bit too much pace, so it's not easy to control. But as Tim said there, if one of them goes in, it's a totally different game. And you saw the other night where kind of Spurs took a 2-0 lead against United, and it all of a sudden looked over. I think whilst 2-0's never a kind of a score where you think it's game's done, I felt Spurs there would have maybe caved if we got that second goal. And a lot of it did come down to just poor decision-making. There were really, really good opportunities. Not loads and loads of saves for the keeper to make, but just that last pass, that last kind of bit of decision-making. And I think Mane, again, struggled a little bit with his decision-making. And you saw it second half as well, without jumping the gun a little bit. There was that one where Salah's breaking second half, and Mane's got a great opportunity to put him in, and he just plays it wrong side. So loads and loads of fine lines. But in that first half, I mean, Liverpool played, for me, they executed the game plan perfectly, and they looked far the better team. And if we'd have gone into a 3-0 there, I don't think anyone would have complained. Obviously, legs start to tire second half, and I think that's where Spurs start to unpick us a little bit. There's more gaps, there's more holes. In the first half, Dele Alli, Son, Eriksen, all really good players who do cause teams problems. They just could not get in the game. Now they switch Alli and Eriksen second half, and it makes things more difficult, and they get some joy from that. But those gaps that weren't there, that were being closed off by Milner, by Chan, by Henderson, they started to open up. We couldn't quite get to that first man. I agree with Robbo's point before. Every time I watched Dembele, and it probably wasn't his best game he's ever had at Anfield, but I still thought he was really, really good. And he's just a guy who he looks so comfortable in possession all the time. He's not afraid to take the ball. He takes it in really tight spaces. And you know what he does that I absolutely love? And it's a bit of a risk, but he's not afraid to beat a man in the middle of the park and take him on. And that can be a risk. If you get it off him, you spring it onto their back four. But when you go past a man, he did it a few times yesterday, it's dragging another one of ours out, and then there's space, and then they can move, and then they can go. And that causes a little bit of a problem because he's so comfortable taking it under pressure, and he'll ask for it all the time. Again, give it to me. And it's great to have players like that. And I think where that midfield of ours lacked a little bit, we've not really got someone who wants to take the ball sometimes under pressure. The lads in there yesterday for the first hour, I thought all did a sterling job. But then in that last half an hour, you need to hold it, protect it, look after the football. I don't think we were doing that anywhere near well enough in that certainly in that last half an hour period.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about like a couple of worries, I think you're right to say Sadio, because I just think, you know, he's still contributed some goals and assists, and he's done his magic moments and stuff like that. But he's just not right. He's just not right. I mean, you know, talking to the lad next to me on the cop, and we were saying, you know, he's not even trying to beat a man a lot of the time. All of a sudden, do you know what I mean?
Think he's injured?
I don't know, but he just holds it when you just think, just take. There's only one lad there. Take him on. You know, we know you're capable of it. You're more than capable of it. But he seems to turn back a lot and play it safe really than being the explosive fella that we know he
looks caught
can
in
be.
two minds a lot to me in terms of his decision making. It's not quite. I mean, you see it obviously in the Everton game. You know, that's the one that's been highlighted loads. But since then as well, there's been loads of kind of occasions, or it seems like loads of occasions, where he's just picked the wrong thing to do at the kind of crucial moment.
Even like that, the safe thing you're saying there, he chooses the safe thing to do, but then still hasn't really been executing the safe thing as well. And there'll be an underhit pass there or an overhit pass there, and then it always seems to put us under pressure at the moment. Well, like you say, he's obviously got the goal against Burnley and the goal against Man City and stuff, but there's some bits where he can normally, you know, how good is it, like sort of linking the play and, like you say, beating a man. But even the safe option is execution of that safe passes, I think, left a lot to be desired lately as well. So
he's been shifted as well, hasn't he, to the opposite side. So I don't know how much that's having an impact, if at all. But he certainly looks below his kind of levels of last year.
Kind of feels like we could do with them coming good. Don't
get me wrong. I mean, he's still chipped in with vital goals, vital assists, and even at Huddersfield, you know, he could have had 2 headers in that game. Yeah. So there's still moments from him, and there's no doubt about it. You know, the lad's a player, and he will, for me, get back to his best. But just a little bit worrying that doesn't seem quite at it.
The other, like, the thing that's getting highlighted today as well is just that Liverpool that have got this habit, obviously, of throwing away points from winning positions as well. And I wonder, we've talked about this before, obviously, as well, but I kind of think it's right in a way that, you know, there's still that thing about, are they that good at knowing when to almost change the pace of a game? And, you know, you mentioned, like, backing them to defend before, Neil, and it's like, it's not just that, though. Just taking the sting out in a professional manner at times, and they weren't great at that.
Well, that moves us into the second half, because one of the things that frustrated me in the second half was the pattern of the game set by about 52 minutes, which is Spurs are going to be on the attack, and when Liverpool win it back, they're going to look to spring them. And we're going to look to spring, and that's it. And that's all we do. And for me, firstly, I think that makes it a bit too obvious. But secondly, I think it meant that we couldn't take the time off the game. The number of times I'm looking at lads picking it up when they've got time and they're just basically going, let's go and get a second. And I was just thinking, you know, every now and again, boys, we can just sit on this a minute here. We can give these lads at the back a breather, because one of the things that I think happens is the ball just keeps coming back. Yeah. So those lads at the back, they begin to drop deeper, which
the whole half it did that.
It keeps coming back because rather than just take 2 minutes out of the game where we knock it round, they've got to get back in shape because Liverpool have got the ball. Suddenly, then it's a bit more like a conventional game of footy. But all we were doing, and it's undoubtedly a tactic, and this is why I think it's dead interesting, Gareth. We were thinking, we just kill them on the break here. We've only got to if we get it right, if we have 10 goals and we get it right once, we'll score. That was what we were thinking. But I was beginning to think, you know, when you're watching Go 8, I'm beginning to think, lads, there's an argument here just to turn it into a slightly more normal game of footy, where we're the home team, they're the away team, and they've all got to drop, because then they win it back, Gareth, and they'd be like, suddenly, oh, well, they've got 8 players in our half still. You've not got those 8 players out of our half. They've not had to do any work to get up the pitch. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it did feel like they were struggling to sort of to get out as well at times, you know, just sort of going down blind alleys a little bit, you know, quite a few sort of Milan Barros-esque runs into blind alleys, and it is a little bit of a worry, that, and you wonder how much comes down to the manager. I mean, you know, there seems to have been some gentle criticism, shall we say, from many quarters fairly recently. A lot of it unwarranted, I think. I mean, you know, I thought the Shankly thing in particular was an absolute load of bollocks. I mean, why throw it in the first place, and then what you want him to say, and then why make a big deal about what he said? It's just a load of shite. Just basically to aim shit sticks at the manager, and I wasn't into that at all. I just think, you know, judge him on the actual job he's doing, and this to me is a fair enough discussion in that, you know, should he have more in his locker about changing it a little bit when when we are in a good position.
We were at Huddersfield and we were dead patient at times against Huddersfield, and all I was thinking was, lads, can we just do that for 3 minutes? Just 3 minutes. But what that means is Spurs have got to get back in their half. If we just keep the ball for 3 minutes, they've got to adopt a reasonable-ish shape that stands off you a little bit. But all that was happening was their lads never had to run back. They were getting counted on. If the counter comes off, there's no point in running back anyway because Mo Salah, Sadio Mane and Firmino are in. So what's the point? And if it doesn't work, well, we've got the ball back now and we're back on the attack. So if I'm Dele Alli, I'm going, let's see what happens here.
I think like that. The ball now, lads. I think that just affects the whole game then, because the three up front can't get in the right position to press their back four properly. So the ball just gets played down basically round the corner for Salah to run to.
Exactly.
And then he's sprinted 20 yards that way.
Wow, that's interesting. That drill. Keep going.
He sprinted 20 yards that way, and he sprints 20 yards that way, and then all of a sudden he hasn't got the ball, and the ball goes back. The ball's getting launched back over his head, and he's got nowhere to go. And then the press that offsets the whole our pressing game, which is constantly brings more pressure back on the defence, and it didn't seem to change as the half went on. It was basically you just play ball over after ball off the ball.
I'd love to know if the manager's thinking, can we try and keep it a bit better here, boys? I mean, he does bring Wijnaldum on, which interests me, but then he also brings Oxlade-Chamberlain on, which also, does he just want Oxlade-Chamberlain to stretch it? And at the same time, he were being I think that by the second half, their plan's working and that they've almost got 4 centre midfielders, I think, on the pitch at that point. Their full-backs are getting in it, they're overloading us, they're pushing us back. And I'd love to know, is he frustrated that we're not just keeping it for a minute or two here, Ian? Or is he actually thinking, no, go on, you're my boys, this is what I want you to do, I want you to turn them round? I will never quite know what the answer to that is, but his demeanour didn't suggest he was thinking, come on, got to be sharper in terms of just knocking it around for a minute. You can't do right for doing wrong, and that if we do try to keep it, we lose it cheaply, or even if we don't lose it cheaply, but they just make it 1-1 anyway, then we're saying, why didn't we find a plan to go for the second? I don't know. I don't think it's an easy decision, but it looked to me like all we wanted to do was hit them.
Yeah. I think, he goes by his standards fairly early with the subs. We've seen him criticised in the past for maybe leaving it a little bit too late. But he goes quite early, doesn't he? Obviously, I think the Henderson one is interesting because I thought Henderson was having a really, really good game. But then you're thinking, was something agreed before the game? He's played at Huddersfield. Has it been agreed that he comes off on 64,
pre-programmed
65? Yeah, they've spoken to the medical staff and listen, give him 60, 65. We've got a manager's comeback. Saying that, I thought Henderson looked disappointed to be coming off. He may have looked a little bit leggy in the 5 before he does come off, but I thought he was having a really good game. I think he brings one out.
He was struggling a bit,
The last 5, I thought he struggled.
Not just physically, I thought I thought all 3 of them, it was beginning to bypass them a bit.
Neil, it absolutely was, and I kind of referenced it before. That second half, the gaps are open. We're not doing anything massively different. We're still sitting in. We're still waiting for that chance to spring on them, but the gaps are opening now, and Spurs are getting joy, and we just can't get to them. And obviously, legs plays a part in that. We looked leggy as fuck second half, and I think, he tries to change that by bringing on Chamberlain, hoping maybe he'll keep hold of the ball a little bit, maybe run at Spurs, direct power pace. Has a really poor time when he comes on, Chamberlain. But I thought he's thinking, bring Gini on. Now, Gini has good games against these, big teams, especially at home. So you could have made a case for him starting this one, and you're hoping he maybe protects the ball and looks after it, but it doesn't really work. Again, the subs, probably not the manager's fault, because listen, he's reacted to a situation, he's tried to change it, but they don't come off for me, the 2 subs. Yeah. It doesn't really work for them, and if anything, maybe it makes it a little bit worse, maybe.
Yeah, I thought I quite like the time of the subs actually, because I'm sort of not one to criticise them all the time, but them 70-minute subs are beginning to do me head in a little bit sometimes. So when he brought them on like 62, 63, I thought, well, that's good. It's a positive for me. It's okay. You can see the game sort of maybe getting away from us a little bit here, which I think it was at that stage. And I quite liked the subs. I didn't mind. I liked the timing of the subs, but I think sort of kind of ironically, I think that when they happened, I think it felt like the 2 players who came on looked more tired than the players who went off. And they came on and the game was bypassing them worse than what the 2 guys who've gone off, who've been running around for 65 minutes.
Honestly, that's the sort of subs that the way those lads come on and play is exactly why if you're Klopp, you're going back into your backroom staff and going, that's why I don't make subs on 60. That's why I don't make. They could not get the pace of the game.
They come on and they were like, I was like, what have you been playing the entire game? Because Chamberlain looked goosed straight. As soon as he got on the pitch, he looked knackered. I was like, this is mad. And then same with Wijnaldum as well.
And it's strange because there was a real argument there to make a case for Chamberlain or Gini to start that game. Yeah. Given how Chamberlain played against City, given how Gini played against City, you could easily have seen a scenario where he's gone to one of those lads, maybe instead of Milner.
Definitely.
But I totally agree. I mean, they come on, they can't get the pace at all. I thought Chamberlain was.
I don't think Chamberlain. I don't reckon he completed the pass.
I've got to be honest. I mean, even for and I know we'll probably come on to the goal in terms of the carrier's punch, but Chamberlain's on his heels for that as well. Yeah. If you look at that goal, Wanyama's standing behind him and he reacts straight away, and Chamberlain just hasn't got it. I mean, he's not sensing danger at all. He's not alive to the moment, and he lets him steal a march, and then the rest is history. He bangs one in from 25 yards. But yeah, I think those two subs, have got some sympathy with the manager because I'm thinking it's the right time to make the change. I disagree with him on the third one. I thought he goes too soon with Matip. I thought he created more problems than it solved.
Do you think there's something in Gareth, the idea that this group of players, they can execute what the manager asks them to do, but if it needs to become a little bit different, they struggle. So we've seen them be patient in big games. We've seen them actually knocking around in big games. We've seen them, Man United at home this season, for instance, the 0-0, where United come to sit off, but we never overcommit. They never get daft. You know what I mean? They basically go, we're not in a good place here today, so we're not gonna fall into their trap and do what they want. And they're really, really patient. And I just sort of wonder if at times, first half, the game plan's working, it's executed perfectly, it's all moving along, well done the lads. And then second half, when it's not working, when they're not springing them, there doesn't seem to be the ability either from the side or the decision to be made either from the sidelines or on the pitch to just sort of go, let's just do something a bit different, even if it's just for 5. Even if it's just for 5, let's maybe try a little bit of this. As I say, because you see them at Huddersfield, it's very, very patient. You see them in other games, you can say there's tons of patience. You see them in some games that's very counter-attacking. You very, very rarely see a game, say, where you think Liverpool have played 3 different ways. Do you know what I mean? This side. You don't, even though you've seen them play 3 different ways across the course of the same players across the course of a season.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's just sort of the in-game management of it, isn't it? Sort of on and off the pitch. And yeah, I just wonder, I mean, it still feels like there's a theme here to what we're all saying, really, and that it just feels, like they were like coiled springs, and then they're let out of the dressing room and they just go out, fly at Spurs, and that's how they've decided the way that's that's how they're going to beat them, basically. And I just wonder whether, Klopp's talked, obviously, all the stuff that gets referenced all the time, the rock and roll football and all that sort of stuff, heavy metal, whatever musical genre it is. And it's
classical jazz, it is.
Yeah. But it's
Mongolian playing chants. Go on.
I mean, we are good in the big games traditionally, aren't we? Under him, he has got a good record against the big sides, and I wonder how much he almost wants them to play on the emotion, and whether at times it gets a little bit the better of them. I mean, we talked about Robertson putting it into the stand and stuff like that. It's just an over eagerness that to me. It's not a quality issue or anything else. It's just like he's just desperate. He's ran the length of it.
And all that.
And that's the way Liverpool plays. And I just wondered whether late second half, whether basically that had died a little bit. How much can you put into one game? I mean, I wrote something on our Facebook page afterwards saying that. Whatever you want, however you want to analyse the match and whatever you want to criticise and individuals, mistakes, whatever, you can't fault any of them who were out there yesterday in terms of effort. They all put absolutely everything into it, and they must be knackered. They must have been knackered after that because they all ran all over the show, particularly first half. They couldn't do it. They couldn't sustain it as much second half, and as we said, there was a little bit more space around. But is that down to just lacking that little bit of nous, cleverness from the manager, from the players, of just like you saying, just take a little bit out of the game? But they didn't want to. They didn't try to.
That's my thing is that you didn't see them try. If they'd tried and failed, we'd be sitting here going, well, they tried that and it didn't work. They didn't try to.
But Milner has said it again. It was either last night or in one of the papers this morning or on Twitter or whatever, that we need to be cleverer in the game. And like you're saying about in-game management, this is probably the 3rd or 4th time James Milner's come out and said this now. And I mean, because obviously of all of the players in our squad, he's the one who's sort of been around the block, got the most experience. And I think that, I don't know what game it was earlier in the season when he said exactly the same thing. It might have been
Chelsea home.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. What Chelsea at home? He said we need to be cleverer, because I think it was like live on the pitch straight away. He said it, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he come out and said it about last night as well. We just need to be chill out for 5 minutes.
I completely agree with James Milner. There's this thing of me, I go, and James, you were playing, mate.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. There is this thing, and he literally, like, he's... he did the same thing after the Chelsea game, and I was like, "Yeah, James, it was you who gave it away that led to their goal." And I mean that, that he's a footballer I've got enormous respect for. I think he's sound. I think he's shown this season his worth, his strengths, and his weaknesses. He's shown the fact that he's got a lot of miles on the clock at times, but you can see the quality and you can see his brain. But there is always that thing in my head. So James Milner's come out and yet again said things that he could have sorted out in centre midfield whilst playing. Maybe he's just shouting at them all. They're not listening to him. And he's doing his head in.
To be honest, that probably might be the case, but yeah,
I'm going to have to mention it in the papers again, lads.
Told you.
Had we won 1-0, Ian, and there's a couple of little counterfactuals I'm going to do now. Had we won 1-0, it would have been lauded as Van Dijk's first 3 points.
Yeah.
And also, it would have been lauded as a massive 3 points for the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And that's why the nature of their equaliser is a massive... The nature of their equaliser and then the second penalty before you get into the ins and outs of it. That's why it is a massive shame, because I think it would have been significant for both of those players. Van Dijk less so, but maybe Karius more so. Because there's still question marks around him for a variety of reasons. And having watched it back today, he punches it 25 yards.
Yeah.
Now, I would rather he caught it. If he catches it, then he don't score. But he's made a percentage decision. He's punched it 25 yards, and Victor Wanyama has absolutely blammed it in the top bin. I mean, it's unbelievable how much that is in the postage stamp. But, almost putting that to one side, it is a shame, isn't it? Because he'd made some good saves, he'd commanded his box, he'd done his job. Before we get into the rights and wrongs of the goal itself, it's just a shame for that lad, because, I thought it was probably his best game up to that point, undoubtedly his best game.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it felt like there was more authority about him yesterday. He makes some early saves, which you'd expect him to make, but I think it gives him confidence. I think the one where it's offside, and I don't think it was actually offside, but it gets flagged as offside, he comes out, he doesn't know it's offside, he makes a really, really good save. And there's one in the second half as well where Son gets in on him, and I tell you what, he's brave. He's brave there because he's out quick, and he does that really well. It's one of the things where, for me, he's certainly above Mignolet in that respect, where he does come off his line really quick. He springs off it nice and quick. He's done it in other games as well. Southampton, both games, League Cup last year, spring to mind.
He's good in those games.
But in that Son instance, he knows full well he's going to get hit because there's a follow through there. But he's brave, does really well. I totally agree, Neil. It is a shame for him. He would point to that and say, in terms of the goal, he gets to 25 yards, and if he does that 100 times, 99, it goes into the cop, and he's probably right. If it was being picky,
he's not out by Shannon Oxlade-Chamberlain.
He's not. I mean, it bounces over Chan's leg. He kind of doesn't really do enough for me. He kind of just watches it kind of bobble over his foot, and he's not reactive to it at all. And as I said before, with Chamberlain, he's very much on his heels. He should be reacting to that because Wanyama reacts to it. And you see that often with forward-thinking players when they're attacking your goal, they do react first. And Chamberlain's only just come on, so you're thinking, lad, be alive to that moment. You've got to make that your ball. He doesn't. He's got absolutely no chance with the strike, obviously. But if it was going to be, I've looked at it again, the cross, because Wanyama starts the move, he dinks a lovely little ball over to Eriksen, who fires one in, and I'm thinking, could he have collected it? Possibly. It might seem harsh because he does get good distance. And listen, loads of goalkeepers would opt to punch that. There's no doubt about it. But I think if you're being critical, he could take that ball.
I thought he should have caught it. I've watched it a few times back. And I still think he probably didn't need to dive out the way he did. If he takes one more step to his left, he probably catches it.
He's not absolutely at full stretch, is he? So I think he could have took it.
Obviously, once Wanyama's hit it, you never save it. I think it was missing till about a yard from the goal, and then it just went in the top corner. It was pretty well. I thought by far his best game. That chance you mentioned there about Son, though. One thing, maybe it's a credit to him that he made the save, but he sort of put Trent Alexander-Arnold in a load of trouble where that came from for that chance. Actually,
yeah, he did.
He got the ball. Tried to think it's of Trent Alexander-Arnold when there was 2, if not 3 Spurs players around him. Trent controls it. He gets broken on, and then he breaks in and scores, and he saves it. But
on that though, in the ground, Henderson told him to put it there.
Did he?
Henderson told him to put it there. Genuinely, Henderson, because afterwards him and Henderson have a chat.
Okay.
And I think Henderson was saying it was me who told you to put it there, but Henderson's going. Alexander
really?
Arnold,
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Because I was watching it and he did it, and I was like.
And everyone around me was furious with him as well. And I completely understand why, because it doesn't look great. But Henderson was going.
Okay.
There,
fair enough then. But so he's done it. But I think, and then in that instance, it's a bit like when Gerrard used to tell players to do stuff and he'd do it, even though it was the wrong thing to do. You need to be a bit intelligent and go, well, actually, Trent's there. Okay, Henderson's telling me to do this, but I know, maybe he's wrong because he's got 3 players around him.
I think Henderson's ideal thing is that happens is that it drops at Trent's feet. But that's where I'm going. If I'm the keeper, I'm going. I don't fancy myself to play that long. To be honest with you,
luckily he makes the save. Not luckily, it's a very good save. But if they score there, Karius is getting slaughtered.
It is. No, you're right. It is frustrating for him, isn't it, Gareth? Because I always remember there's old stuff of Benitez and Valero and Reina, and there was the decision made that punch it and get distance all the time. You used to see, and people would be furious with Reina when he first came. Like, why? What's he doing that for? What's that about? It might be that he's had a conversation beforehand. It might be that he was punching a lot. I thought there was some other stuff which he does punch and get distance on, where you could argue he could take it. He's chosen to punch it, and I just think it's a real shame, given the way the whole game goes, that it does bite him on the arse the way which it does.
Yeah, definitely. Because I was frustrated. Look, at the time, and I, I'm in the cop, I'm right behind it, and I thought my first reaction, one watch live on the ground, I just thought, why didn't you look? It looked to me like you could take that, and look, like, I don't understand if you just say something about that. How you're all of a sudden getting abuse, which I did on Twitter from loads of people, and it's like,
meet your mate.
It's just my opinion. Like, I'm just a fan at the match. I'm not a professional goalkeeper. I've never played as a professional goalkeeper, and I've literally got people sending me like, "Oh, this is what David Priest said." Okay, I read what David Priest said, and he said pretty much what you just said, and that he gets good distance, that the cross is whipped in, and that it's you can't really question the decision. Okay, Sam, but in the ground at the time, I was frustrated that we conceded a goal, and I thought the keeper could have maybe grabbed that. That's it. That's all. We're all allowed to say different things about football.
And we're all football supporters.
You know what I mean? I want Liverpool to win, and then you get this. Oh, you've got an agenda. I haven't got an agenda. I want the keeper to be the best keeper in the world.
You wait till we get on to John Moss, then you'll see an agenda.
I'd love Karius to be this, dominant number one and go on to have the share for 10 years, save everything that's there and all that. I mean, he did have a good day, saves a penalty as well, which hasn't been mentioned. Older's nerve there, Older's place, and, Kane tries to put it down the middle and he has him off. Shame he can't get to the other one, but, it's one of them, you're gambling, aren't you, on where he puts it. But yeah, I thought he did have a good game, and it is a shame that we end up having that discussion. It's a shame, as you said, for Van Dijk as well, because he looked like a fella who had a real bit between his teeth to say, I'm going to have a big dominant performance here. People have been talking about me being fat. I'm going to show you. I'm by a
mate, if he's fat, we're all in fucking trouble, by the way. we're all in trouble, by the way.
Mate. But, he plays well. But then, again, you end up talking about, a moment, really, that sort of puts a bit of a downer on his performance. And Lovren as well. Look, I thought he done a lot of things right yesterday. But then, again, you're looking at the one where he's scuffed it and Kane's gone to, and there's obviously the discussion around the actual decision. But also, he's just fucking clear, that lad. Do you know what I mean? What are you doing? And then we don't have the discussion.
He's got. I mean, I agree with you. I thought the partnership looked promising. It looked well. There was loads of communication there, which was good to see, between goalkeeper and both centre halves. And it was working well. But with Lovren, and listen, I have been a critic of his. I'm not particularly a massive fan either. He's got that in him, haven't you? Just that kind of one mistake. But I thought Van Dijk yesterday played well. I've seen a couple of kind of different opinions on it, but I thought he was great.
The one thing I'd say in just quick is there's 4 centre halves on the pitch yesterday, 5 if you include Dyer, but let's not. 4 centre halves on the pitch, and 3 of them made mistakes.
Yeah,
and I think at times, excuse me, sorry, I'm full of colds. I think at times we forget that the purpose of really good attackers is either to do something unreal, or to make really good defenders make mistakes. That's literally the job. The job is you either do something brilliant or you make a really good defender make a mistake. And that's what you're trying to do for 90 minutes. So Sanchez, is all at sea. I think Vertonghen had a good game, broadly speaking. I thought he was all right. I thought you could sort of get pulled around, but Sanchez was all at sea. He was really, really struggling. For me, I thought he really struggled.
The pace was an issue for Sanchez, absolutely.
And then you've got R2, where one of them makes a mistake, quite deep into the game on 80-odd minutes, I think it is, for the penalty. And then Van Dijk, insofar as you can say either of them are mistakes because of the context and the decision, the referee, blah, blah, blah. But I'm more than happy to say, yeah, that's going to happen. And what has happened, I think, to all of those players, if anything, Sanchez is the lucky one one of his mistakes was punished, but the other 3 or 4 weren't.
Yeah.
Whereas all the 2 Liverpool players centre halves, their mistakes were punished.
There is like a shit happens type thing about it, isn't it? Because it's just the nature of footy, and you know, I'm as guilty as anyone. I'm not saying I'm some special case. I've already said I'm a fan, just talking about the game, and you do. That's what you do. As soon as a goal goes in, it's whose fault was it? You know what I mean? And you work it back, and you go, he should have done that, and he should have done that, and that's what loads of the conversations are. That's what match of the day is. That's what goals on Sunday is, and like they might have, you know, bits of video that they can rewind and stats that they're throwing up, but a lot of the time it's just analysing a mistake and saying someone should have been there, they should have done this, they should have done that. But the reason the game's so good is that it's played by humans, and humans make mistakes, and that happens.
Robert, you're right. I mean, it's fine lines then. I mean, Harry Kane doesn't get a kick really. I mean, if you look at the first half an hour, he literally doesn't hardly get a touch in our half. He's had more touches in his own penalty box than he has in ours.
And the line was good, wasn't it?
The line was great.
The line was great.
He was really trying, you know, he was trying to do the thing where you stand offside, step back on for a bit, and then pull off. And it didn't work. It wasn't working for him.
But
Except he gets a pen, that's
I did like the understand. We know that understanding. I mean, there was times where Van Dijk would sense danger and he goes out to meet it, but then Lovren switched on and he covers, and already you could see the makings there of maybe something in terms of a partnership. And there's been times where that's not particularly happened well. You've looked at Lovren and Matip, and maybe there's too much of a gap and stuff. But yesterday, I thought them two, you know, take Neil's point there, they're both at the kind of scene of the crime in terms of those 2 kind of mistakes, if that's what we're going to call them. But overall, there was lots to be positive about in terms of a partnership.
I thought I thought Van Dijk played really well. In the air, particularly, I think he won more headers yesterday than the rest of our defence for the entire season combined. I felt like because every single ball that went in the air, he seemed to win. Again, ironically, apart from the one at the very end.
Both boxes as well, though, Tim. He looks like a centre half who's going to get you half a dozen goals.
There was a couple of times, though, I think he got a bit lucky, I thought, in the first half when I think Son got in behind, good ball by Kane, and the referee flagged for offside, and he wasn't actually offside. But Van Dijk was just sort of like wandering around. It wasn't really paying attention, and I think the flag went up, and I think Son put it in was offside anyway. But he wasn't in the best position, and he wasn't making the greatest effort to get back. But I think that was the only time in the game where I thought you looked like you were out of position. And I thought other than that, it was really, really good. Be interesting next week on the way to Southampton. We've got these two getting booed for the entire game while they both play, so I'll be full moaning.
Southampton's derby. There is something on Salah. The second, Gareth, is just immense under the circumstances, the time of the game, what's gone on, just like the penalty saved, the size of the game. I mean, this is a brilliant footballer coming up against other footballers who aren't as brilliant as him, but are pretty much some of the best lads in the world at what they do, and making them look like absolute divvies and then slotting it at that stage of the game. It is so heartbreaking that in the end it doesn't count for what it could have counted for.
It's an unbelievable goal. You know, it looked unbelievable in the ground. I mean, I said already that, you know, I'm in the Kop, so it's like it's miles away. But even then, it looked brilliant. Celebration was brilliant. Finally watched it back, and when you watch it back, it's amazing. You know, like I think the commentator on whatever I was watching on said something like, you know, he makes 5 or 6 steps in the time that other people are making 1. Do you know what I mean? And his control, his pace. Like how he gets to that just before the keeper as well, for the finish as well. You know, all of it's absolutely brilliant, and it's what, 28 and 33 now, which is absolutely phenomenal. And I just think, you know, all of a sudden now, well, not even all of a sudden, but in general, you know, we've got to be talking about this fella as like an absolute superstar for us here. He's like, you know, he's Suarez, he's Torres.
He's Suarez 13-14. Yeah. At this rate, he's Suarez 13-14.
And you know, who saw this coming? I mean, you know, we everyone, you know, yeah, he was decent enough in Serie A, but seems to be lots of people saying there was absolutely no doubt about his sign, and that's not how I remember it. I remember lots of doubts. Loads of people pointing to what he did at Chelsea. Loads of people saying, you know, Italy's kind of for his style of player and all this sort of stuff. Loads of people questioning whether he cope with stuff physically here, which is he's
just mad.
He's out there, kicks down.
It's whether or not the Premier League can physically cope with him at this stage.
So yeah, I mean, absolutely brilliant again, and as you say, real shame that, you know, we didn't come out of the ground bouncing to another winner from him. But, you know, what a player we've got on our hands.
Robert, we were chatting before, weren't we? When he gets that ball and he claims for a pen, doesn't he, at one
There's
point?
Players everywhere, isn't there?
I mean,
you're like,
if you tell me there that that's going to end up in a goal,
you're like, nah.
Nah, no chance, lad. Absolutely no chance. I mean, Carragher gets, he compares the goal to Messi. No, not in terms of like Salah's as good as Messi, but in terms of the style of it. And it's that ability to kind of work those angles in tight spaces. And no one can go near him because if you go near him, he's going down for a penalty. But he's surrounded by 5 or 6 lads. And for that situation to end up in a goal, it's absolute genius. His numbers are a joke.
If that's on Question of Sport, where they do the what happens next, no one's saying it ends up with a goal. They're saying,
goal like that. I was willing him at all stages to just shoot. Like, I get a deflection. Like, basically, I'm
win the corner,
win the corner, get what you can. I'm going get what you can, and it transpires what he can get is a goal. So, I mean,
watch this.
Yeah.
Like you just said there, it is very Messi-esque in the way it was. It's just that constant manipulation of the ball in such a short area of the pitch, really, isn't it? Like you said, making 5 steps and 5 movements when one fella's still trying to make his first kick at the ball. It was ridiculous, and like you said there, it was always like shoot, cross, try and do something, but then I'll just beat these 5 fellas and score. Sound.
I've got this one. All right then. Before we get stuck in to the referee, and I just want to give a quick mention to our Scandinavian shows which are coming up this week. We're in the Old Dub, it says here, in Stockholm on Friday the 9th, and we're in the Pokerland pub in Oslo on Sunday the 11th. We're going to be watching the Southampton game on Sunday the 11th and doing the show immediately afterwards. Doors in Stockholm are 6 p.m. It's freezing, by the way, in Oslo. They've been telling me today it's -8 at the minute. So I'm psyched up for that one. I'm really worried about Robbo. He might die. He does not do well with the cold. Have you? Good. I am really worried about you.
And a vest.
You're going to need more than just one. Tickets are free. If you sign up to Redsbet, mentioned them before, we're doing the show in association with them throughout 2018. All the info is at the AnfieldWrap.com/TAW live. There are limited tickets left for both. You're laughing at him, are you?
Robbo's going to have to wear all of his clothes when it's...
It'd be like Cool Runnings when Sanka comes out to the airport and he puts all his gear on and he walks out running and he's in there, Robbo with all his gear on.
Astronaut suit or something.
It's going to be absolutely ridiculous. It's going to be like he's going to turn up to Manchester Airport, be boiling all the time, he's wearing all of his clothes, and then as soon as he steps off the other side, he's going to be freezing.
Don't feel the benefit though, Rob, if you do that, mate.
The AnfieldWrap.com/TAW live. There is limited tickets available for both at Stockholm on Friday the 9th and Oslo on Sunday the 11th. Really looking forward to it. We're looking forward to watching the Reds, to be honest with you, next week, because they're my favourite football team. All right, then, we're going to have to talk about the refereeing. And I think the first thing, and it's important to start with it, Gareth, is I think the refereeing through the contest is really poor. Before the first half, it was just low-grade rubbish. The number of decisions where, I'm just going, that's just wrong, referee. And even a couple in our favour, there's 4, I think, back-to-back that he doesn't give us. And then he gives us 2 that are soft as anything, that I'm going, well, that's just not a foul, mate, or if anything, it's their ball. And it just feels like refereeing by numbers at times. Like, I know there's been an instant there, I've got to give something. I think I might have got the last one wrong, I'll do this then.
Yeah, it didn't level out at all. Did it? Some referees will try and let things go in a big match, and just let the game flow a little bit. Others want to seem to want to like stamp their authority on it early and say, I'm not having this, lads. And there was one like Trent got done, didn't he? And there was nothing. But then Trent does someone else and he gets a yellow, and you're like, well, what about the one earlier? Because it was bad.
The one earlier was moody, I thought. Yeah. I don't know who it was. It was the other side of the pitch to me.
Davis, it was.
Davis did him, yeah.
So he does nothing on that, and then he books Trent for admittedly another one that looked quite bad. But yeah, there was no consistency across the course of the game. And then obviously, the big decisions that everyone's talking about, both are contentious, both. I'm not sure. I just don't. I don't understand. I mean, literally the second one, he makes a decision and he signals with his hands that it's not a pen. So you've made a decision. He's actually closer to the incident than the liner, and then there's the flag's late for me as well. And then he goes over, and then it's a pen, and it's like, well, what happened to the decision you just made a minute ago? Why all of a sudden there's a change? And then this bizarre conversation which you referenced at the top, where he's asking Martin what's happening on the telly or whatever. Well, it's not a VAR game, is it?
I'll just go back to you, Gareth, before bringing everyone else in. One of my things on this is when you get the transcript of that, and listen, the journalists, they know what they're doing, these television people. I think it's a bit moody to take the transcript. And
it is a little bit, yeah.
I think it's a bit moody because what that means now is you'll have referees being reluctant to talk if there's cameras around, maybe having to move and all that sort of stuff. And it's a hard enough job anyway. But they've done it. It exists. It's out there. And one of my things is the extent to which it offers you no confidence whatsoever in either of these men and in this process is, I think, mind-boggling. Like, to think, I've always sort of suspected it's a bit like that.
Yeah.
But to
same.
somebody...
Yeah. It's basically best guess, isn't it? And I've always suspected a lot of decisions are best guess, sort of based on what our crowd reacts, what players' faces are, full it, and like they're never going to come out and admit that. They're going to say they saw it, or a collective decision with the assistant referees or whatever. But I've always thought some of them are best guess. They've got to be. You haven't kept up with the play. You didn't really see it. You've only had a click of a finger of in terms of time to make that decision. And that's what you hear him basically say. The linesman's going on about if it's touch Lovren, then it's not offside and all that sort of stuff. He just goes, I don't know whether it touched him or not, I'm just giving a pen.
But I thought that in the first instance, because obviously we don't like the linesman for the second one, but in the first instance, I thought, reading the transcript, I thought the linesman was actually really quite good in the first instance. He explained what he saw to John Moss, and John Moss just seemed like a bumbling idiot in that conversation. The linesman was like, if it's done this, then it's offside. If it hasn't done this, then it's not offside. John Moss goes, well, I don't know, they touched Lovren, so I'm just giving a penalty.
Yeah.
Which is
my best guess.
But if it touched Lovren, that's not. He's not. He's off. If it didn't touch Lovren, he's offside. Therefore, no penalty. So it's like doesn't really make sense. But talking about keeping up with play though, how can John Moss physically be a referee? Surely there's an element of fitness involved if your job is running up and down loads during 90 minutes, and you must be clinically obese.
I mean, that's a big shout, and not one that necessarily the clinics would support. But I think there is an argument about him not being able to keep up with play, and I think that is a big deal. And I think, but in general, I think my point is that I'm seeing all the way through the first half, before you even get on to the second, but when you get the transcript, is loads of a fella going, I'll just give a free kick then.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that, I'll just give a free kick.
Yeah.
Oh, well, look, didn't look great, I'll just give a free kick. Well, that one, no, I'm all right with that one. That one's not a free kick, he's just nearly kicked his head off. Don't worry about it, honestly, and it is a startling pulling back of the curtain. And then this reference to Martin, what's the TV saying? What's the TV showing? Is like, hang on, lads, are we doing this all through the back door now? And how long's that? Because that didn't feel like Martin. Let me ask you the question I never normally ask you. It felt like
a regular shot.
This is something that we're doing on the regular. And all in, as I say, I think it's startling that we're talking about elite footballers. We're talking about Mo Salah going past 5 lads who play for a side who've beaten Dortmund and Real Madrid this season and making them look daft in the 92nd minute or whatever time it was in the clock in, making them look ridiculous. We're talking about that level of astonishing endeavour and brilliance. And then you've got a fella going, I'll just give a pen.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, home and home soon, eh? Fuck it, let's give this one.
It's absolutely unreal. I mean, the rule is, if you're not certain of whether it's a penalty or not, you don't give it. You don't just best guess it when it comes to penalties. But I agree with you, Neil. In terms of his first half performance, he's all over the show anyway. He's absolutely all over the show. And there's things there he's given free kicks for that aren't free kicks. He's not given free kicks when he should be. So his performance was just inconsistent from start to finish. But the fact that, Neil's point there, that he's going to Martin Atkinson, who's the 4th official on the day, and saying, any hopes, any chances here? No, weigh me in, what's going on? I mean, that just should not be happening. And I mean, you do start to wonder how often that is a thing now. And, we just get told it's not, but actually they've been using this system for a long time. It's absolute bonkers.
I don't think this is a VAR thing. I think they've been doing this for seasons, and this has been going on for years now.
I've always never been sure what the rule around that 4th official.
You can't use them to look at the TV screen.
Yeah, but he's definitely been doing it for ages. 100%.
If nothing else when he gets in at half time.
Yeah.
If nothing else when he gets in at half time.
Talk me through that, absolutely.
100%. I mean, I've never known, because you'd always see them talking, or obviously they're all mic'd up, obviously with the land, I understand that. But there's no way in a million years that 4th officials aren't helping out the referees on a pitch.
But if he asks him the question and then doesn't give him any time to respond anyway, he just immediately says, I'm giving a pen. Nice one.
I mean, the other thing as well is that Klopp's press conference, where he's just absolutely bamboozled. They read it out. They read out what was said, and he's bamboozled by what he's hearing about, well, if it's come off Lovren, but he doesn't mean to pass it though. Do you know what I mean? And they're like, well, yeah, but the rule is X and all this. And he's like, that's the rule. Do you think that's right? I think it's staggering that you've got a fella, and this isn't having a go at Klopp. You've got a fella who works in the game, is a manager of a top football club, and he's confused about what it is. So if he's confused, what have we got basically? And my point here is that I just think they've tinkered so much with offside, the second phase and all this bollocks. Like, people were quoting the rule last night. They even did it on Match of the Day too. And when you saw it, it was like, but it says if Lovren was deliberately playing it. Well, he didn't fucking deliberately scuff it and it go backwards. So
yeah, he wasn't trying to pass it back to his keeper.
Yeah. So it still felt like, even with the law, that there's a bit there that's open to interpretation.
And also, the other reason why he's trying to kick it is because he knows Harry Kane's behind him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
who's offside?
So he's made him make that mistake, has he? So he's interfering with players, isn't he?
The second one's not a penalty for me, and it's almost as crazy as, well, possibly crazy, all the stuff around the Calvert-Lewin one. Firstly, he's offside, but secondly, he's just jumping in. And he's jumping in and contact this, contact that. Oh, there was contact. If you're going to dangle your leg, there's contact. Yeah, he doesn't have the ball. There's contact. If there's contact in the penalty area, you're within your rights to go down. Contact. It's all you're hearing from everyone. Well, there's a bit of contact, so he goes down. He's nowhere near anything. And also, Van Dijk is trying to pull his leg out the way. He can't cut his leg off. He can't have his leg not exist anymore. Within the realms of human endeavour, he does as much as he can not to kick the lad. So unless the idea is, well, you're wrong pretty much from the minute you're born in that phase of play, Virgil, because you get stuck underneath it. That's it. You're fucked. It's all over. You might as well just point to the spot straight away. It's absolutely wild. It is, honestly. And there's loads of people going, well, it's soft, and I can see why it was given. And if it was on the other foot, we'd all be screaming for it, and we'd be calling it clever play, and blah, blah, blah. I'm just going, well, he might as well not have legs anymore. You've basically put him in a situation where having legs makes him less useful on the fucking pitch.
It is boss Arsenal spy Lamella though.
It is, yeah. Don't get me wrong.
He does. You can see him spot it.
Yeah.
And he's like, right, I'm star jumping in front of this fella.
Yeah.
Getting a touch and doing Swan Lake and seeing what happens. And fair play to you, lad.
Fair play to Lamella. I'm not going to start getting on moral high grounds over this. It's just all of the people going, oh well, it is a bit soft, but I can say, fuck off. Said if you fucking support Liverpool, dickhead.
He seems to have glossed over the fact that Harry Kane died for the first penalty as well.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, no, that one is...
It takes about 3 steps and then goes, yeah.
The Kane one is... The Kane one is a shocker, I think. Yeah. I actually think it's a genuine shocker. The Lamella one, the only thing I'm prepared to go is what Gareth said. He's been clever.
Yeah.
He has been clever because he's worked out that Virgil van Dijk's got fucking legs. You know what I mean? He's got a leg there.
It takes him a while to swing them.
Yeah, the big legs.
But didn't this like
even then, he basically gets it out the way.
Did you see Kane at the end as well when he said to the camera, like, don't give me 2 chances as well at the end of the game into the Sky Sports camera? I was like...
He's got too much spit in him.
Carrier says he touches him, but Kane's going down well before there's any contact.
He did the old leg drag, didn't he?
It's the leg drag, exactly. You can't have all contact in the penalty area be the responsibility of the defending player. Yeah. That's absolute bollocks. And if it's true, then we're going to give 50 penalties every game, especially from corners. Because if the rule is, if a limb or a torso exists and I run into it, I get a pen. Then you know what I mean? Every corner is basically pen after. There's 7 pens there. Hey, I'm going to make you give them all one after the other.
You got the Dele Alli one right, though. You know what I mean? We got something right.
As someone said, for someone who dives so much, he's pretty shit at it, like Dele Alli.
Yeah, that was shite.
He's horrendous.
It was absolutely crap.
I thought he was crap yesterday, by the way.
I enjoyed the way everyone had decided they hated them as well, because I hate them. Yeah. I can't be arsed with them, and I just enjoyed the way I had loads of people on my side for that. And so when he did the dive, it was like loads of people simultaneously went, "See."
Yeah. I'm made up that loads and loads of people have basically stopped now talking about the fact that we could have gone on from Milton Keynes Dons for 3p or something.
Yeah,
let's stop talking about that as well, because if we want to go down that route again, we can start talking about Michael Laudrup. Anyway. Let's we're going to end this one somehow. We're going to end this one now. It was a really good game of football, and I hope that's come over during the show. The annoyance with the referee and the fact that he can't accept that people's limbs exists has only come through at the very, very end of the process. So it's been in association with RedsBet, redsbet.com. If you want to sign up for an account there, if you gamble with anyone else, move over to RedsBet. 50% of all losses go to Liverpool Football Club, associated charities and causes. But thank you very much to Gareth Roberts, to Tim Smith, and to Ian Ryan. It's been the Anfield Wrap this week. Liverpool drew 2-2 in their quest for the top 4 place. But the most important thing, the thing to take from the weekend was, I told you, Jordan Pickford's only got little arms.